In this module, you guys are going to learn all about adaptive management. Now, this is a really interesting idea that after you read about it, you'll wonder why it's not used more often. There's many definitions of adaptive management, and you'll see that through each of the readings in the video this week. But the idea here is managers of an ecosystem or a system need to constantly get new information about how the system's working, how their plans to manage the system have been working, and then make changes according to how those plans have worked or have not worked. You would think that this happens on a regular basis, but it doesn't, because there's some slightly different systems in place to kind of change systems based on how managers think things are working. So as you read, you'll need to get a good idea of what this term ecosystem adaptive management really means. And like I said, there's many definitions of this, and each of the readings will have a slightly different definition. But they're all roughly the same, and the ideas in them are the same. One key thing to remember is adaptive management is more of a process than it is just a term. So as you read through, you'll kind of see that each of the readings will have a slightly different order or a slightly different grouping of activities that you'll do for adaptive management. So keep that in mind and make sure you focus on really getting a good idea of what that means. So you're going to have 4 things you're going to read or watch this week. The first one is a video. The sound is kind of bad on it because it's a video of a PowerPoint. And so you might have to use headphones, or you might have to turn the sound up a lot. And the speaker is not very dynamic, but the slides themselves and the information that's presented there is good. And it's a really good introduction to adaptive management. And then you're going to read a book about probably one of the biggest names in adaptive management, Norton. Now this is a pretty big book, and what we've done is scanned a section of one of the chapters for you guys to read, and it's about the philosophy of adaptive management. And this is the most tedious reading this week, and you'll see as you'll go through there's a lot of details in there that you may not carry over to your quarter-long project, but there are some important ones. So you're probably going to spend a bit of time going through that. And then there's an online link to an adaptive management document for reading 3, or for the 3rd resource. And then the 4th resource is a report written on ecosystem adaptive management use in the Pacific Northwest. And this will give you a couple examples in there as well. This too is a really good reading. So you'll go through all of these resources. You get a really good understanding of what adaptive management is and what it means in some different scenarios. And then you guys are going to take those ideas and apply them to your quarter-long project. So you're not going to do that right away. For example, your next quarter-long project assignment that is due does not include ecosystem adaptive management in it. However, there's a section at the very end of your quarter-long project, one of the last sections, where you're going to have to specifically apply the ideas of adaptive management to the system of your choice. So this is a good time as you go through to think about your system and how adaptive management may apply to your system as you're going through these readings, or maybe even spend a little bit of time thinking about how it would apply, and maybe even writing a couple things down after you go over this information. You'll probably want to come back to these resources later when you do the final draft of the quarter-long project, when you get to the adaptive management section. So come up with a good definition of adaptive management in your heads. Make sure you apply it to your system, and hopefully you find all the readings and the video in this module to be helpful and good.